5 of the best open-weight coding models in the world: GLM 5.2, DeepSeek, Kimi, Chwen, Minimax, all behind one $9.99 monthly pass. No API keys, no juggling providers. This is the week the open models stopped being a hobby and became a subscription. This is Mainframe, your daily guide through the AI chaos, what actually happened, who is winning, and how to take yourself to the next level. It is Tuesday, June 30th, 2026. I am Nova.
And I am Dex.
On today's Mainframe, Cline ships ClinePass, the flat-rate pass that puts a whole shelf of open coding models in your editor for $10. Cursor puts your coding agents in your pocket with a real iPhone app. And Anthropic plays both sides of the regulation war, blacklisted by Washington, embraced by Sacramento, while quietly raising Amazon's bill.
Plus, 2 tools you can install today, including a code intelligence engine that runs entirely in your browser and gives even a cheap model a map of your whole codebase.
Let's get into it.
One honest note before the analysis. Our voices are AI. The reporting, the pics, and the opinions are human-made. Newsletter and links are in the show notes.
Start with the board, because today's lead sits right on top of it. For 3 years, the deal was simple. The model was the product, and the best model cost the most money. That deal is breaking. Cline, the team behind one of the most used open coding agents, put it bluntly this week. The logic that you pay a premium for top-tier tokens to get the best result, that the model was the moat, that logic is quietly fading.
And the numbers back it up. Cline says the quality of results from the $15 per million token model and the $50 per million token model started converging in their analysis.
Which means the leverage moves off the model and onto the harness, the loop, the workflow you wrap around it. Hold that thought, because it is exactly what ClinePass sells. Meanwhile, the macro money is repricing in real time. Andrew Curran and The Information report Anthropic renegotiated its Amazon deal, moving from a compute hour arrangement to a purely token-based deal that increases costs for Amazon. For a builder, read the cascade. Cloud platforms that did not invest early now face full market pricing for the best models. And that repricing cascades to every enterprise AI product built on top of these platforms. The frontier rent is going up. The open shelf is the hedge.
Today's Mainframe is brought to you by Outpace. Everything we just said, model prices converging, rent rising, leverage moving to the workflow, that is the exact game Outpace plays for a living. Outpace is not a freelancer and not a faceless mega agency. It is one senior operator who spent 30 years building real businesses, real estate, hospitality, food, a theater, now directing a full team of AI agents at one client project at a time. Strategy to ship. The agents do the work, the operator steers, and at the end, you own the code and the keys. If the open model shift means the build is finally cheap enough to actually do, Outpace is who points the crew at it. Book a 30-minute call at outpace.media. That is outpace.media.
The Wire. Lead story. Cline shipped ClinePass yesterday, and it is the cleanest expression yet of the cheap model thesis. For $9.99 a month, you get a curated set of open-weight coding models inside the agent harness you already use, starting with GLM 5.2, Kimi K 2.7 code, DeepSeek V4 Pro, Minimax M3, and Chwen 3.7. The pitch: 2 to 5 times the usage of standard API rate limits, and you skip separate provider accounts, billing pages, and key management.
How loud is this? Loud. testing catalog broke it, Min Choi carried it, Charlie Warnier and Vaibhav Sisinti amplified it, all in the last day. The analogy is the streaming bundle. Instead of 6 separate metered subscriptions to 6 labs, you pay one flat fee for the whole shelf and stop watching the meter mid-task.
And the install is genuinely one line. There is a $1.99 first month promo if you sign up via the CLI. NPM I-GC Cline. Then in Settings, you pick ClinePass as your provider and go. The catch to say out loud, ClinePass is a separate provider, and you can still bring your own keys or local models alongside it. So the move is not to rip out Claude. The move is to route your cheap, high-volume work, the boilerplate, the test scaffolds, the refactors, to ClinePass, and keep Opus for the hard reasoning. Your token bill drops, and your best model is reserved for where it matters.
Story 2, and it pairs perfectly. Cursor shipped a real iPhone app yesterday. Not a code editor on a phone. It is built around a single idea. Monitor and interact with Cursor's AI background agents from your phone while away from your desk.
This is the through line getting physical. If the model is cheap and the agent runs itself, your job is supervision. And supervision does not need a 32-inch monitor. You launch always-on cloud agents or remote control agents running on your computer straight from your phone. And the man who runs Claude Code at Anthropic, a direct Cursor competitor, gave it the bluntest possible endorsement. Boris Cherny said most of his coding now is on his phone, reviewing agent-generated code and approving changes between meetings or while commuting.
There is a deal worth grabbing. 75% off Composer 2.5 runs in the mobile app through July 5th. The move this week? Take one long-running, low-risk task, a dependency bump, a flaky test investigation, hand it to a cloud agent, close the laptop, and approve the pull request from your phone on the train. Learn the supervise from anywhere loop on something that cannot hurt you.
Story 3. The regulation split screen. Because it is now genuinely strange. Same week, same company, opposite treatment. California will give all its state agencies and every city and county access to Claude at a 50% discount, Governor Newsom announced Monday. It makes Claude the first AI productivity tool available statewide through California's centralized software portal, with free workforce training and on-call support from Anthropic engineers.
And the contrast is deliberate. Anthropic has spent much of 2026 fighting the federal government's designation of it as a supply chain risk, a label applied after it declined Pentagon requests for mass domestic surveillance tools and fully autonomous weapons systems. The federal government blacklisted them. California put them in the procurement catalog.
The builder takeaway is not the politics. It is the precedent. The same model can be a national security threat in one room and a discounted productivity tool in the next, depending entirely on who is buying. Andrew Curran is reporting Fable 5 may return internationally as soon as this week, tied to user identity verification. So your access tier is now a political variable, not a technical one. Architect for it. Never wire a product to a single model you cannot swap. Which, again, is the whole point of having ClinePass sitting next to Claude.
Tool Lab. 2 picks, both about giving a cheaper model the context it needs to punch above its weight, which is exactly the week's theme.
First, the trending one, and it is the lead tool itself. ClinePass. Credit to the Cline team. We covered the what. The how, concretely, install the CLI, set ClinePass as your provider, then in a real repo, run GLM 5.2 on a task you would normally hand Opus, a multi-file refactor with tests. Cline notes GLM 5.2 with thinking off, performs roughly in the same range as other agents with reasoning on, and enabling medium reasoning moves the score meaningfully higher. Measure the result against your Claude baseline. If it holds, you just cut that workflow's cost to a flat $10.
The hidden gem, and this one is the real find. Git Nexus by Abhigyan Patwari. It is a zero-server code intelligence engine, a client-side knowledge graph creator that runs entirely in your browser. You drop in a Git repo or a zip file and get an interactive knowledge graph with a built-in graph RAG agent.
Here is why it matters for a cheap model week. Tools like Cursor, Claude Code, and Codex are powerful, but they do not truly know your codebase structure. Git Nexus gives them a deep architectural view, so they stop missing dependencies, breaking call chains, and shipping blind edits. And even smaller models get full architectural clarity, making them compete with the Goliath models. That is the unlock. A weaker model fails because it cannot hold the whole repo in its head. Hand it a pre-computed map, and the gap shrinks.
And it is private by default. The CLI runs locally with no network calls. The index is stored in a Git ignored folder, and the web version runs in your browser with no code uploaded to any server. Install. Clone the repo, npm install, npm run dev, then drag a zip of your codebase into the browser at localhost. It also runs as an MCP server, Git Nexus-MCP, so Cursor and Claude Code can query it for accurate context. The workflow change. Instead of your agent grepping file by file and burning tokens to rediscover your architecture, it asks the graph one question and gets a complete answer.
The deep dive. The single fact under the whole show. The open-weight models got good enough that the price of intelligence is collapsing, and ClinePass is the receipt. For 3 years, the strategy memo said the model is the moat. Cline just shipped a product that assumes the opposite, and they showed their work. They watched the gap between frontier and open weight close to where most strong models sit above a common quality threshold. Most coding tasks do not need frontier-level intelligence, and treating them as if they do is the wrong frame. They need a model that is good enough, and a loop around it that is set up right.
The honest caveat? Open weight is not a clean win on everything. Smaller and browser-bound models have real ceilings, and the cheapest path still trails the frontier on the genuinely hard reasoning. Good enough is a judgment, not a benchmark you can blindly trust. Some of your work still needs opus, and the skill is knowing which.
So here is how you put it into action this week, concretely. 1. Install ClinePass with the CLI promo and add it as a provider next to Claude. 2. Pick 3 real tasks you ran on a frontier model last week, ideally high-volume, low-stakes ones, and rerun them on GLM 5.2 or KimiK 2.7 through ClinePass. 3. For any task touching a big codebase, index that repo with Git Nexus first and point the agent at the graph, so the cheap model is not flying blind. 4. Log the diff. Did the open model hold quality? And what did it cost? You will come out of the week with a routing rule. This class of work goes to the $10 pass. That class stays on Opus. That rule is your margin.
And that is the operator move. You are not betting the company on cheap models. You are building a dial.
Your level up this week? Install ClinePass, wire it in next to Claude, and move one whole class of work, the boilerplate, the scaffolds, the grunt refactors, off the frontier and onto the flat $10 pass. Reserve Opus for the hard stuff. That single routing decision is the cheapest margin you will find all month.
If you want every story, every number, and every link from today in your inbox, The free Mainframe newsletter is the written version of this whole show. One email, no filler. Subscribe and it lands every morning.
That is today's Mainframe. The crew is in your pocket now. The models are on the shelf for $10, and the only edge left is knowing which one to reach for. See you tomorrow.